There is a certain kind of person you often meet at work. They are easy to ask for help. Need someone to cover a task? Sure. Need someone to stay a little later? Fine. Need someone to take on a little extra work? They do not mind. At first, everyone says they are such a nice person, but slowly, something strange begins to happen. People start to assume difficult tasks can go to them. Unwanted work can be passed to them. After all, they probably will not say no. And that leads to a very common conclusion. If you are too nice, people will take advantage of you. But I think there is a problem with that sentence. The person who is easiest to exploit is not necessarily the kindest person. It is the person who cannot make betrayal carry any consequence. So the real question of this episode is, does a kind person need the ability to fight back? First, we need to separate two things. Kindness and weakness are not the same. Someone who cannot say no may not be kind. They may simply fear conflict. They may fear damaging the relationship. They may fear being seen as difficult. They may already be furious inside, but simply do not know how to express it. That only tells us one thing. They have failed to protect their own boundaries. It does not automatically make them morally better. Real kindness requires something else. Ability. I can refuse you. I can end the cooperation. And when necessary, I can hold you accountable. But when there is no good reason to harm you, I still choose fairness, cooperation, and sometimes even generosity. So one of the most important conditions of kindness is not, I accept everything. It is, I have other choices, but I choose not to abuse them. But another question immediately appears. If other people might exploit my kindness, would it not be safer to say, you treat me well first, and I will treat you well? That sounds reasonable. But if everyone thinks this way, cooperation may never begin. I say, you prove that you deserve my trust first. And you say, you first. Both sides wait for evidence. But trust has a difficult feature. Often, the evidence only appears after someone takes the first risk. That is why trust always contains uncertainty. If I already knew with 100% certainty that you would never betray me, that would no longer be trust. That would simply be certainty. Political scientist Robert Axelrod famously studied repeated prisoners' dilemma games. The question was simple. If two people keep meeting again, what kind of strategy makes long-term cooperation more likely? One of the most famous strategies was submitted by Anatole Rappaport. It was called tit for tat. The rule was extremely simple. Cooperate first. After that, respond to whatever the other person did in the previous round. What matters most is not the part that sounds like an eye for an eye. It is the first move. Cooperate first. The strategy does not demand proof that the other person is good. It offers a limited amount of goodwill first. Then, it adjusts according to the other person's behavior. That is very different from trusting everyone unconditionally. Mature trust does not mean handing over everything at once. It means give someone a chance. If they prove reliable, cooperation grows. If they repeatedly exploit you, cooperation shrinks. The tit for tat creates another problem. If someone betrays me and I respond, is that not simply revenge? In the previous episode, we talked about how revenge can keep the person who hurt you controlling your life. So we need to separate these ideas carefully. Fighting back and revenge are not mainly separated by the action. They are separated by the purpose. Imagine someone repeatedly takes credit for my work. I stop working with them. I report what happened. I ask for the credit to be corrected. Those actions may absolutely cause them to lose something. But my purpose is, stop the harm, restore the rule, Make sure future betrayal is not free. Revenge goes further. Even after the situation has been corrected, I still need to see them suffer. I need them to fail. I need them to regret what they did. So the real distinction is not, did the other person feel pain? The better question is, what am I trying to protect? If the purpose of resistance is to protect boundaries and preserve a fair system of cooperation, it does not necessarily conflict with kindness. But if making the other person suffer has become the goal itself, then we have entered a different problem. More than 2,000 years ago, Confucius faced a surprisingly similar question. In the Analects, someone asked him, "What do you think of repaying resentment with virtue?" "Someone harms me, and I still respond with kindness. Does that not sound morally superior?" Confucius replied with a question. "Then how would you repay virtue?" And then he said, "Repay resentment with uprightness, and repay virtue with virtue." The word often translated as uprightness should not be reduced to, "You hit me, so I hit you back." It is closer to, respond according to what the situation itself deserves. If responsibility is required, require it. If a relationship should end it. If forgiveness is appropriate, forgive. The point is, do not allow personal emotion to erase the distinction between different kinds of behavior. That is worth thinking about. Suppose one person genuinely helps me, and I treat them well. Another person repeatedly deceives me, and I respond in exactly the same way. And what difference did their choices make to our relationship? If every action receives the same response, we may appear extremely forgiving, but we may also be removing the person's responsibility. We often imagine punishment and kindness as opposites, but reality is more complicated. Imagine a workplace where one employee repeatedly bullies others. Manager keeps saying, "Let it go. Give them another chance. Everyone should try to understand each other." The manager sounds very kind, but who pays the price for that kindness? Not the manager. The next employee who gets hurt does. Sometimes what looks like forgiveness is really using other people's safety to protect our own image of being a good person. In that situation, punishment does not have to mean, "I want to make this person suffer." It may simply mean, "There are rules here. Certain choices have consequences. Cooperation cannot survive if betrayal is tolerated forever." So, genuine kindness cannot ask only, "Did I make the person who did wrong uncomfortable?" It also has to ask, "If I do nothing, who pays the price next?" That is why responsibility can sometimes be part of kindness. But if we stop there, we immediately fall into the opposite extreme. Anyone treats me badly, I strike back immediately. That does not work either. Real life is not a perfect game model. People misunderstand each other. They forget things. They say the wrong thing. Sometimes they do something in anger that they normally would never do. If every mistake must receive an equal retaliation, one misunderstanding can turn into a permanent conflict. That is one of the weaknesses of a purely mechanical tit for tat. Especially in a noisy world where mistakes and misinterpretations happen, some degree of forgiveness can actually help cooperation survive. And this gives us a useful balance. Good cooperation needs memory, but it also needs the ability to restart. Without memory, people can exploit you again and again. Without forgiveness, one mistake can destroy an entire relationship. A more mature position is, "I remember what you did. Your past behavior affects how much I trust you now." The past does not automatically become a permanent sentence. New behavior can still change the relationship. But now we reach a more difficult question. Suppose game theory really shows that long-term cooperation is often more profitable than constant betrayal. Does that mean kindness is just a more intelligent form of selfishness? I do not lie to you because I may need to work with you again. I help you because I may need your help later. I keep my promises because a good reputation gives me more opportunities. None of those reasons are wrong. A society where cooperation is rewarded is probably a healthier society. But we still need to separate two things: a good strategy and moral goodness. They are not exactly the same. Kant cared deeply about this distinction. Imagine a merchant who does not cheat customers. Maybe he is honest because he respects honesty. Or maybe he is honest only because cheating would damage his business. The behavior can look exactly the same, but we still feel that the reasons behind it are different. So the real test of kindness is not, does cooperation benefit me? The harder question is, what if not cooperating benefits me more? Imagine this is the final transaction. You will never meet the other person again. Cheating them will never be discovered. Your reputation will not suffer. There will be no punishment. In that moment, do I still recognize that the person in front of me has a value that should not simply be exploited? If the answer is still yes, then we are finally approaching a moral reason that cannot be reduced completely to calculation. So let us return to the beginning. Why are kind people so easy to take advantage of? The answer is not because the world always targets good people. And it is not. Stop being so nice. The deeper problem is that we often misunderstand kindness. Kindness does not mean always saying yes. It does not mean always stepping back. And it certainly does not mean responding the same way, no matter how someone treats you. Mature kindness can offer the first chance. Because if nobody is willing to cooperate first, trust can never begin. It can also make betrayal carry consequences, because cooperation without consequences can end up rewarding exploitation, and it still needs forgiveness. Because if one mistake permanently defines a person, cooperation can also die inside endless retaliation. So the real choice was never simply, should I be nice or should I be tough? The harder task is learning to hold several abilities at once. Be willing to extend a hand. Know when to pull it back. Remember how someone has treated you, and still allow someone who has genuinely changed to prove it. And at the very end, there is still one question that game theory cannot answer for us. If kindness stops benefiting me, will I still choose kindness? Game theory can tell us under what conditions cooperation is more likely to survive, but a payoff table alone cannot tell us. Why does another person deserve fair treatment in the first place? Maybe true kindness does not come from being unable to hurt someone, and it does not come from being afraid to fight back. Maybe it begins when I have the ability to protect myself, the ability to make betrayal carry consequences, and still choose cooperation when cooperation is deserved. So, if you often find yourself thinking, am I being taken advantage of because I am too kind? Maybe the better question is not, should I become a worse person? Maybe it is. Does my kindness have boundaries? Do I let people know that goodwill can be met with goodwill, but exploitation will change the relationship? Kindness without strength can become sacrifice. Strength without kindness can turn every relationship into war. The difficult part is keeping both. Be willing to cooperate, but still be able to say no. Be willing to forgive, but do not erase responsibility. Be good to other people without handing yourself over first. That may be the hardest part of kindness. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments, how much power to fight back should a truly kind person have? If someone betrays you once, would you give them a second chance? Or are there some things where once is already enough? This is the thinking habit. In the next episode, we will take another ordinary choice from daily life, something you may do all the time, but rarely stop to think about. See you next time.